to say it's one of the most egregious breaches of natural justice when a parent is required to bury a child. It is, for those of us spared that misery and that tragedy, it is almost inconceivable. But in the case of my next guest, it was an experience that she had to endure twofold, and which then turned out to be the beginning of a whole new nightmare. Because when Mina Smallman's daughters, Bibaa and Nicole, were murdered, the people to whom we all look for investigation, solution and protection conspired to make her plight and her misery even worse. Yesterday, Jamie Lewis and Denise Jaffa, two PCs charged with guarding the murder scene, were jailed for 33 months after it emerged not only that their behaviour had potentially compromised the murder scene, although thankfully the convict has been convicted, but also that they took photographs of Bibaa and Nicole and shared them with profoundly inappropriate messages on a police WhatsApp group. And Mina joins me in the studio now. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for coming in. Can you tell us a bit about Nicole and Bibaa?
Yeah. It's nice to start with that. Normally it's at the end, but it's nice to start with that. Well, Bibaa was a senior social worker, a single mum, and she loved her job. And she would have been on the phone to me talking about the little lad who just died. And she always said, not on her watch. You know, you couldn't be covering up anything on her watch. And she was fiery like me. So, you know, my DNA. Pocket rocket, she really was, you know. And she was never leave the house with her hair out of place. She was eBay queen. She would get loads of designer stuff and, you know, everything was cheap. You know, she wouldn't waste money. She was thrilled. She bought her new car with savings. So she got herself an Audi and she was really pleased with that. And she was a determined woman to make something of herself. Now, Nicole, she was the reverse of Bibaa. She couldn't give a damn what she looked like. In fact, one of the pictures of her in the picnic, she actually has a hole in her sock. So if you look carefully, and she would turn up and we'd get dressed for dinner and she'd always have holes in her tights. And I'd say, oh, Nick, come on, go, come on. And she said, Mum, it doesn't matter, who cares? And I always had a batch of tights. So we got to the point, she'd say, Mum, have you got the tights?
Never stop being Mum.
Yeah. Hippie. She should have been born in the late 60s, 70s. She'd have looked great at Woodstock. And she was more quiet, reserved. But if you got her on her topics, she would fire up, you know. So she had the DNA.
Were they close?
Very,
because there's quite almost 20 years between them.
Yeah. I mean, to begin with, they were like auntie and...
of course.
Yeah. But as, you know, once you get to your 20s and you begin having more in common. But as a family, we've always kind of celebrated with music and food. So, you know, when your kids grow up partying together with the family, then the gap gets smaller. And they shared things like going to festivals and theatre, holidaying, you know. They all got on really well.
A sort of close-knit family all round.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
It's hard to know where to work our way into the tragedy, Mina, into the horrors that have been visited upon your family. Some of it is already quite well documented, some of it less so. But I'll begin, if I may, by asking when you were first made aware that these police officers may have behaved, let's just begin by saying inappropriately.
We travelled to London to begin to put together funeral arrangements for the two girls. And we were going to do it in London. We retired to Ramsgate, but most of her friends and our friends that live in that area, and my mum and my brother were cremated at Golders Green. So the plan was to keep that up. As we're there, we get a phone call to say we need to come and see you urgently. And it was, why? It's really important. And I assumed they were going to tell me we knew who the murderer was because they hadn't found the murderer at that point. And she said, no, it's not that. I'm not at liberty to say, but please see them tomorrow. So I said, okay. Thinking, well, we had a rough night because we didn't know what we were going to hear. But basically, when my friend went down to let them in,
Yes.
It was the IOPC and the then borough commander.
Wow.
And as my friend went downstairs, my husband said to me, Mina, just think about this. They could never tell us anything that's worse than the news that we've already heard. And I thought, you know what, you're right. And when the IOPC guy, Graham, his chin was trembling as he was telling me. And he said, I've got 2 daughters and I don't know. I don't know how to put this to you, and we've got no excuse for it, and it's, heinous, and we are going to follow it up. And I have to tell you that you can't imagine losing 2 daughters on the same day.
No.
That anything could be worse than that. It compounded, and I think we sank to a low that you couldn't even imagine.
I won't go into detail because it's all on the record, and it's gross what they did. But loosely, they abandoned their post, took photographs of your daughters, and then shared them with other police officers and members of the public with some horrible commentary and comments on it. Do you know how do you know how that emerged? Do you know how they
How they found out?
Yeah.
Someone was a whistleblower.
So someone just thought this isn't right.
This is not right.
It's the sense that they did it thinking that everybody that received it would be in on the...
Yeah. And, the thing about it is, I'm not going to say it on air, but I urge people to have a look at what the WhatsApp group was actually called. And you just can't believe it.
No.
But, when you get a sense of how prevalent this isn't a one-off. I object to it being said this is one rotten apple. This is not. This behaviour is not uncommon. It's commonplace. And the fact that we managed to get it to the Old Bailey and for it to be custodial, I think is going to change the culture that exists in the police. Not all the police.
Of
and
course.
As you know, I've got family members who are in the police, and their impact statements say very clearly, we work tirelessly to do the right thing for the public, and we serve. And things like this disgust us.
I have some messages to that end coming in now. I'll just read out one from Adge, who's in Bath, 30 years in the force. Please let Mina Smallman know that every serving and retired police officer is appalled and disgusted at the behaviour and actions of Jaffa and Lewis. We are so sorry, and we stand with you. It got caught up chronologically in the Sarah Everard case as well, didn't it? In a way that many of us struggled to believe that police officers could behave in this way. I think you felt that Bibaa and Nicole's murder didn't garner as much attention as some other cases have.
No, it didn't. And, speaking plainly, there is a term, missing white girl syndrome. And anybody who doesn't know about that, they need to look it up.
It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, that's it, But it's how reporting, how media choose to report one against another. And I made it very clear. I actually brought attention to that because I had family members saying, where was the outcry for 2 sisters murdered? Where was the vigil? Ironically, my girls would have been at that vigil. It's not a competition.
No.
Because my heart goes to the mum. But I've been challenging the media.
Yes.
And I think they're hearing me now. Because I haven't actually met a journalist who has behaved in a kind of mercenary way, not care about us, but I may do a 2-hour interview with a journalist or a film crew to find that it has 2 minutes at the end of a news segment. And we all know that's the point where people get up, go and get a cup of tea, ready for the programme they want to watch. And I've been very clear. I am coming for you, and I'm asking questions. And I don't want your guilt.
No.
Guilt's no good. Guilt doesn't change anything. I'm asking you the question, try and make me understand why that story had less significance than this. Because in itself, a double murder of 2 sisters killed in a park.
At a family picnic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is.
It's outrageous.
Of course. Why take this campaign forward when you could be forgiven for, you'd already retired to Ramsgate, you used to be an archdeacon in the Anglican Church, you could have been forgiven for just, I suppose, licking your wounds and saying your prayers.
I'll give you the easy and the short answer. The easy, the short answer.
Give me the long and complicated one if you want. We're here for another 15.
Yeah. It's if I didn't try and battle for other families who may find themselves in our position, I would not be myself. And I'd have to admit that this had broken me. And, imagine my girls looking down. They'd be saying, this has broken Mum. This has finished her. But this, and I think everybody who knows me really well, they're saying, this is what she does. This is what she's always done. She's just done it for other people. But now she's doing it for herself and her family and her girls. So this is not new, me campaigning, being a voice against injustice. The only difference is it's all about our family and our girls.
I mean, you refer to the girls looking down on you, so your faith has helped you cope, because it could have gone the other way, couldn't it?
Yeah, it could. And
particularly perhaps with the second horror visited upon you, because you could almost chalk the murder up as, well, I don't know what language to use, Mina, but you understand what I mean. It's the compounding of the horror by 2 more men who were supposed to be on the side of good, on the side of law and order, that might shake someone else's faith a bit.
Yeah, no, I agree. And, you could understand why people, when this happens, where is God in all of this?
Yes.
But I don't view it that way. And it's not something you could predict that you would be that way. I would have said, and I have said in the past, that woman who has forgiven because she says that's what it says you do as a Christian, my faith tells me that. I was thinking, I don't know. If that happened to me, I'm not sure. And so you don't know until you get there. And actually, that still small voice, in the midst of the storm, you often can't hear him. You can't feel his presence. But he will send I'm a bit dim when it comes to seeing the signs of God. So he knows with me, he's got to send it in quadraphonic, triple skein, 3D. So he sends people and he opens doors and, he shows me that he is there. And the time that I felt his presence most of all was just before we were going to go to the murder trial. Now, we always said we didn't want to see any images, but we knew gruesome details were going to come out, and we thought, well, let's have at least some preparation, hear it in private. And I was so anxious about it. So, the detective and our family liaison person was there, and I was so nervous. I thought, I was praying, and I was staying with my friend who is, I trained with her. We did, we trained as priests together. And I was thinking about it, and then they came and I thought, I need to go and pray. So I went in the loo and started praying. And I thought, why are you praying in the loo when your mate, a vicar, is in there? Come out and get prayer, So I was all tearful and I said, Catherine, can you pray for me? And so she prayed for me. And, I felt a bit calm. And we went into this dining room and we said, no pictures, but tell us, tell us what you think we know. And she said, one of the things that we need to tell you is that this young man, the motive for killing your daughters was to win the Euro Millions, and he'd signed, a contract with a demon in his own blood and he said, I will kill 6 women, and you've got to make sure that I don't get caught, but I'm going to do it in your name. And it was at that point that I actually felt the Holy Spirit. I actually felt, and there were people in the room afterwards. We talked about it because there was a film crew outside waiting to, I can't wait to see the final, because I want to see how I looked before I went in, and then you'll see me afterwards. Because when I heard that, I said, I've got this.
Wow.
I've got this.
What did it feel like, Mina?
All the fear and anxiety left. And I just felt myself, I just felt me coming back together. And I said, I've got this. And I said, I will know whether he's been dabbling or not, because one of the ministries I was involved in was working with people who dabble in the occult and stuff. Right. And so, I've met it up close and personal. Most of the time, it's just people who've watched too many scary movies and have imaginings. But when I saw him, I thought, no, you're just a sad loser. The same kind of people who, shooters and, they're a no mark and they want to be somebody. That's what he was.
So it's a sort of liberating sense I'm getting from you. Have you forgiven Lewis and Jaffa?
That's a funny one. I want to do restorative justice. Yeah. And Jaffa said, as part of his defence, he would love to meet with the family. And, be careful what you pray for. Yes. He probably will be thinking, no way will they want to do it. But I've said before, I want to do it.
Why?
It's not for me.
No.
It's for them. Because I want them to really understand what shame feels like. They talked about it in the court. It's all a bit of a game. You plead guilty, you automatically get a third off of your sentence. And I want to see them face to face. And knowing now that Jaffa has got 2 teenage daughters, I didn't know that. How could he? Anybody who's, Adam's father, because I had to tell them, I didn't want Adam to know about the photographs.
Adam is Bieber's...
Nikki's boyfriend.
Nikki's boyfriend, sorry.
And he's the one who discovered the bodies.
Yes.
He's scarred for life.
Of course.
And trying to protect him. And Adam's dad, Dave, said, have they not got children?
Yeah.
How could you do that? And I want to see him. I want to see the whites of his eyes. I want him to tell me about his shame. Because I didn't see it in the court. The only time there was any emotional reaction, it was when Lewis, the judge, they were reading out his defence and saying that he has 2 young children and they will miss him. And it was at that point he started crying.
Right.
And so I think it's very personal for them at the moment. And yeah, I do believe they're sorry. But I think that they're more sorry that they got caught, because they had no shame. It wasn't just something they did as a one-off. They took it out and passed it on, and
And the groups exist. That's the thing, isn't it? That makes you reach for words like institutional or whatever the correct words would be here. It can't be a one-off because the framework for sharing was in place already.
35 people on the WhatsApp group. 35.
What would you say to them?
Shame on you. Shame on you. You know what this reminds me of? Do you remember Brown, the Prime Minister?
Yeah,
when he got caught, he had his mic still on,
and
he was saying, who was that battle axe? Blah, 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 blah.
Woman, bigoted woman.
And he got to the radio station, still not knowing that the mic, and he sat down there looking all confident. It was on camera. And then they said, we want to play you something.
Yeah.
And there was a point in his face where I liken it to, if you believe in a God,
sure,
that's what's going to happen to us. One day he's going to put your audio tape on or your video and you're going to see it all. You're going to see it all and you're going to hear it all. And I think that's what I'm hoping they feel, it's been exposed. You were part of this.
Well, it's a mirror, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's like holding
absolutely.
up a mirror in front of them.
Absolutely.
And they'll see it.
This is, and what I'm being told is people feel more enabled to tell their story, a bit like the Jimmy Savile syndrome.
Yes.
That, we will believe you now. It's out there now. And the judge has marked this. They've sent a very strong message that this type of behaviour will not be tolerated.
And that is the mission to which you are now going to dedicate yourself.
Yes. Yeah, reform.
The final question, Mina. Does it feel like your destiny?
I don't know. I feel driven.
Yeah.
I feel driven. And as I say, it's... I don't accept every interview. In a way, I've been using the media.
Of course.
I've chosen different avenues because I want all kinds of people to hear this story and begin to express that goodness and truth are values that we have to keep. We have to fight for them. And, I've had letters from all walks of life, from rabbis, from imams, from, 70-year-old white women, 80-year-old Jewish men, saying this is abhorrent. And I urge, don't allow yourself to be marginalised, and we want the opposite to speak up. Yeah. So men who are hearing misogyny, speak up. on behalf of women. Yeah? Women who are gay, or men who are gay, people who are not, speak up. And, sometimes if a black woman says, people are being racist towards me, we just get labelled angry black woman syndrome. And it gets harder.
Yes.
And, what they do in these institutions is, if you speak out, it's not obvious that you're being ostracised, but suddenly, people begin to back away. And the excuse is, they haven't got a sense of humour, or a bit touchy about their colour, or... No, that's nonsense. That is nonsense. And we're not having that anymore.
I'm so sorry that you're here, but I'm so grateful to you for your time. Mina, thank you.
Thank you.